As a trader or investor, and we know all investors become traders anytime they buy or sell, it's very important to have flexible rules. One of those rules is Rule 261, Structure Before News. I'll explain in this video what this means. Let's run the numbers. Before we get going, Joe has very kindly offered a partial masterclass scholarship. Your name could be here. If you're interested in the masterclass, please reach out by email and let me know, or directly message me on X/Twitter. My email is ctksmethod@gmail.com. Okay, let's get into it. Often, the news has a lot of hype in it, a lot of noise, but when you have flexible rules, you're ahead of the pack. It's very natural to turn to the news to try to understand why big drawdowns occur or why huge rallies occur, but actually, if you look at structure, it will tell you everything you need to know. For example, when I showed this chart on MicroStrategy in yesterday's video for Vince, I put these particular levels in play. Now these are structural, either support or resistance levels. Now you can see what happened to price during that period. It came down, but all of this is describable by structure. Let's have a look. Structure is always rightwards looking. What did we see when we did the video on yesterday's price for MicroStrategy? We could see it was just around here, just about $151. Overhead, there was a lot of structural resistance at 155.02, and you can notice this 139.14 structural support level and this 141.08 structural resistance level. Look at how they played out. This is what you will find inside structure. It describes what is actually happening in the news. Now, if MicroStrategy comes down, and it should because Bitcoin has come down, expect a reaction around this particular level because that is strong structure. And if you want to see lower levels of structure, and in a market like this, that's a very good idea. You can get this indicator from ctksmethod.org. Let's go back and have a look at total crypto market cap, because this is literally how the entire crypto market moved. You can see this particular structural support level when the price was right here, just hovering around $2.12 trillion. We had a fail, which meant that we were moving down to the next structural level below. And what happened there? We had another fail. What is a failure? On a structural level, when price comes down, it should interact with it and show a degree of turning around. If it doesn't, the sellers are just far too strong and the next structural support level will be in play. If that doesn't hold, if it fails, it's going down to lower structural support levels and potentially coming back to either retest from a negative stance or to get above and start to consolidate up. But you can see what happened inside the crypto market in the past trading session. It came down, and it came down hard until it found enough safety nets to slow and then reverse price. A lot of people get caught off guard by these kind of moves, and that's very fair because it's emotional, especially to lose money. A lot of people have been saying that Bitcoin is going to go stratospheric. It can't go stratospheric if there's too many longs in the market, and if there's too many longs in the market, they will get liquidated, unfortunately. In order for Bitcoin to go up and go up crazily, it literally has to have a preponderance of shorts sitting above or around structural levels. This is a very important concept. But the charts, this structure tells you where the turnarounds are likely to come, just like in MicroStrategy's chart. Okay, let's have a look at Bitcoin. What I'm going to do here is to just zoom out and show you SCs. SCs, or Stanfield zones, are areas of structure that are grouped together and they form shaded areas, very much like what you can see on a liquidation heat map. One of the things that is really interesting about this particular stance, when we look at Bitcoin, we can see that we came through a lot of structure and tried to get up to this $65,000 level, but there was simply too much structure in existence there. We had a negative fresh air gap, which meant that we could move down rather quickly. And when these things gain momentum, especially if we've got another one below, we just typically just reverse when we find more and more buyers. And they're illustrated through these shaded areas called SCs. The reasoning and logic that I wanted to show you, when you zoom out and you get an idea as to where the structure is, you can find the negative fair value gaps, which can turn into positive fair value gaps and also negative fair value gaps. We've seen a big increase just recently in Bitcoin's price right here, and that's going to be pushing all of the alts up. Now, why did that occur? Because of structure. The news will never be able to explain real time. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so I can show you some more structure in here. One thing that you always want to be aware of, if you don't get above a structural level, the probability is that you're heading to the structural support below. If you can't get above, you're also heading to the one below that. And when you can see negative fair value gaps like this, price can move really, really quickly. If you get a lot of them happening all at once, you typically get capitulation type sales. So what is really important right now is to know where the structure is. If you do not know where the structure is and you don't know how to interrelate to the structure, you're in a lot of trouble. The reason that we look at Bitcoin is because no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. This is Bitcoin's price chart right here. Notice what it's doing. It's doing the exact same thing as Ethereum's price chart. What about BNB, Binance Coin? You can see that BNB has been quite strong. Now, how do we tell relative strength? You can see here Bitcoin is about there, about halfway. If BNB was around the same, it would be there. In fact, it's already up here. What about Ethereum? Ethereum is stronger. It's nearly back up here, which would be like Bitcoin being up there. What about Solana? Solana hasn't just started to go yet, but we've seen the memes start to come alive because Doge gives us a really good understanding of how the memes are working. The question that you're always going to have, where could price reverse from? Well, it typically reverses from structural levels. If we come up to a structural resistance level, there's sellers in there. What does that mean? If there's sellers in there, it means they're selling. They're pushing the price down. What about down here? There's buyers in there. If you know where the buyers are and the sellers are, you can actually look at structure and determine who's in control. The news can never give you that per second capability. Just rounding this out, you can see XRP just about midway. What about Doge? It's just a little bit higher. So therefore, we can say at the moment, BNB is winning on strength. And that's a pretty good thing. That means that money is flowing back into the crypto market. So just keep your eyes on BNB at the current time. When looking at the structural levels on Bitcoin, one thing that we notice, structure is very powerful and total crypto market cap and Bitcoin actually work together. They are not independent, they're interdependent. One thing that we can see around that 58,500 mark, there's quite a degree of structural support in there. If we start to see a 59,600 move and a movement above that, this positive fair value gap could see 60,600 in play. If we start to lose the 59,600 mark, the 58,650 is in play, and it could border down and consolidate around here, just between that 58,650 and the 58,500. If we start to fail there, the next level coming out is 57,890. Bitcoin is currently just below 60,000. It's 59,939. Let me know in the comments, what do you foresee happening in the next 24 hours? Do you think it's an A movement, an upwards movement, a B consolidation movement, or a C, a downward movement? In the last 24 hours, we've seen $341.74 million in total liquidations, with the vast majority being long liquidations. When the longs get liquidated, they're forced to sell. When the shorts get liquidated to cover their positions, they're forced to buy. And nearly 94,000 people have been smacked around the head by leverage. A member of the community reached out and said, Ken, can you please do Litecoin? What are the structural levels on Litecoin and why is it acting so heavy? When we look at structure, we can start to understand why. Litecoin was just sitting on the edge of a knife with a negative fair value gap and a lot of structural support just below the 60-70 mark. It's not surprising at all that we caught that structural support and have gone sideways. When you consider how much the selling activity was here, to be caught there was pretty cool. And when you think about it, if we just turn the indicator off, you would never know it was there unless you marked up your charts with level 1 and level 2 standard certification, which literally gives you the world's most powerful smart money buy and sell level detection system. The community really loves Solana, and when we look at Solana like this, just on a usual price chart, you could never anticipate where the structure is here. You could do recent indicative price and say, there's structure there. But is there? Oh, isn't it there? Or is it there? Or is it there? One of the problems is, if you look at this on structurally, you have to take all of the days into account, not just a little minute slice of time. Otherwise, you get a non-statistically representative sample, and if that's the case, what you draw up as lines really won't help you that much. Okay, let's pop on the indicator and see if we could see into the future, which is literally what we do every day inside this community. We can see around this 153 level, when Solana was down there, it was trying to challenge the 158 structural resistance, got above it, got above that structural resistance at 160, and you see it was caught in that particular gap, and it was consolidating for some time but not making its way above 160. There were a lot of failures in here. In fact, all of them were failures, and we had a 160 failure, a 158 failure, a negative fair value gap down to the 153. Now another negative fair value gap down to around that 147 mark. Now what does that actually mean? It means that when you look structurally, you know where the safety nets are, and we can see that there's a couple more below the current price. And we always think in terms of 3 dimensions. We are prepared for the upside, the neutral side, and the downside at all times, because we know how structure works. You can see it playing out just like MicroStrategy. We can just take something one day and check it the next. It's absolute X-ray vision. And in markets doing what they're doing now, if you don't have X-ray vision, you're in a world of hurt. There are 32 charts that we've done the structural levels on, and those structural levels change month on month. And if you would like me to go through any of these charts, please reach out inside the comments. I really want to help you out and show you where price could be going from an up, down, and neutral stance. Another member of our beloved global family reached out and said, Ken, can you do BNB? Absolutely, let's do it. What's that blue line? That's Bitcoin. A lot of people just use moving averages as a statistical measure. When I was lecturing first and second year statistics, I used to just talk to my students about statistical measures such as averages. And I would say, if you have one arm in the fire and one arm in the freezer, guess what? Your average temperature. But unfortunately, you've probably lost both arms. Now let's have a look at these particular daily EMAs. The EMAs give us an idea of the average price over certain periods of time. You can see there's an EMA down here and EMAs up here. Now, where was the EMA that told us where the buyers and the sellers would be stepping in, where the negative fair value gap was between two prices? It just doesn't exist. That's why, as a statistician, I developed the CTKS method to just fix these issues. After being inside financial markets for nearly 4 decades, there had to be a better way of doing it, because candlestick pattern analysis had not been updated for literally 230 plus years. Now, what are we looking at right here? On BNB, and that's the one that's had the most strength just in the recent price history or recent price action. You can see this structural one support line at 550. We had a structural failure here, a negative fair value gap, and a structural support level at 529. A lot of people think structural support means it must do this. It must hit it and just ping from it. These areas are gravitational by nature. It's very common for them to overshoot and to mean revert, to come back. Always keep in mind that every single alt will follow the directional nature of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is coming up, they'll be coming up. If Bitcoin is coming down, they will be coming down. This is almost an absolute law inside the crypto market. And of course, the more it comes down, the more all of the alts will synchronize with Bitcoin. And that's good. We need synchronization, because when the crypto market falls out of sync with Bitcoin, it's just a matter of time until it comes right smack bang into synchronization again. If you were trading or investing in BNB and you didn't know where the structure was, it would be hell on earth to see one of these kind of candles develop. In all probability, you would just sell, and you would probably end up buying back around the localized top of price. For example, if people sold here, they would wait till price got up to around here and they would say, "Oh, fantastic, we're back." And then probably sell right there and say, "Oh no, I read it wrong." And then they would get back in up here and probably sell down. The thing is, you don't want to do that. If you know where the structure is, you can just set your price traps in advance and just wait for price to come to you. Let's have a look at Tesla. When we think from a structural perspective, we just require the understanding of where the long term, and that means nearly 5,000 days worth of analysis, determining where the true structural support and resistance levels actually are. Let's have a look. It's an absolute complete and utter game changer when you know how to mark up your charts structurally. You can see this 220 level has been a really problematic level for Tesla. It failed and failed again. It couldn't hold structural support, and it also made its way literally down to that 207 mark. You will find this time and time again. If you know where the structure is, and these lines are drawn each month, and they do change because the perception of the market changes month on month. For example, a lot of people say, "Oh no, those lines, they'll just stay forever." Okay, let's go back, say, 4,800 days ago. The lines you drew on Tesla 4,800 days ago, yeah, they're not quite as relevant today as the lines that you see now, because there's been 4,800 days more data that you have to just get across. You have to see how it's impacting price. And you can see very clearly how this 210 level has been suppressing Tesla's price at the current time. NVDA is a very important chart to keep your eye on, and you can see that 128 level of structural support is really important for NVDA to hold on to. If it starts to trade below 128, the next level is around that 124.40, and we've seen it being tapped a couple of times. If you know how to use structure, you can buy and sell between structural levels. It may take some time to play out, but it's quite good as a strategy. There are a lot of people who love NVDA, and with the earnings coming out after the bell on Wednesday, it's important to know where the structural levels are because NVDA could move around like a crazy thing. We've already discovered that if we move below certain levels, that's opening up further levels below. One thing to keep your mind on, if the market reacts positively to NVIDIA, we've got a fair value gap between 130 and 136, also literally up to the 140 mark. So that could be a very interesting time, and we've been consolidating quite substantially just recently. If the earnings expectations are not met, just keep your eye around that 117.50 mark. And if you would like the higher levels and the lower levels for this indicator, you can get them at ctksmethod.org. If you're an investor, you can dollar cost average in at structural levels. It's quite a good way to do things. At least you know where the buyers are hanging out and you can hang out there with them. If you're a trader, we do a thing called borsog. What is borsog? It's buy on red and sell on green. Buying on red and selling on green is a fantastic way to make money. No matter what the markets are doing, you can make money. If the market is going down, you can borsog between structural levels on the way down. And if the market is going up, you can borsog between structural levels on the way up. Structure controls everything. Please let me know in the comments which of these 32 TradingView indicators do you want me to show you in the next video. I'd be very happy to help you out. There's one thing that I've learned over so many decades inside financial markets. If you just pretty much look at the news second and look at structure first, you're going to thank yourself emotionally for doing so. The news is always haywire. If it bleeds, it leads. The news is sensationalistic. It needs to be, or else you just won't read it. But when you understand where the structure is, it's a complete game changer. You literally know where the buyers are and where the sellers are. You can make informed decisions. One thing to remember, in order to move from fear into confidence, you must have flexible rules. What does this actually mean? From time to time, you get a changing of the guards, which means that the intercorrelation and interdependence between charts starts to wobble around. It does happen, and when this happens, it's just a warning that you need to pay a lot of attention to structure. Have a great day or night ahead, my friends, and Kate and I look forward to catching up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.